I gotta tell you, Magnus is in trouble right here. The computer only shows him being down about a half a pawn, but this is murderous to play. Murderous to play. And he's got white. And he's going to have to try to salvage a draw. Tough, tough, tough. I felt bad for the kid, even though I like Vishy too. I can't figure out where Magnus went wrong. I've analyzed this game and before this point I can't really figure out where Magnus went wrong. I think the placement of his queen, once you put the queen on f4 earlier, he didn't manage to find a good spot for it and got chased in the corner. Anyway, he's going to have to tough this out. Rook to e2. And I got to admit, both the black's bishops here and here, are just playing havoc with the rooks and on the position. I thought it might have been a good knight against the bad bishop deal, but it didn't turn out that way for Magnus. c4. Here comes Vishy. Wow. I mean, the pressure's on this kid. And we're on move 30 now. In Magnus's time, which is very unusual for Carlsen, his time is ticking away. I believe he had 13, 14 minutes for 10 moves at this point. And this is a complicated position. You're playing the World Championship. And you're a 22-year-old kid with no match experience to speak of against one of the most experienced match players in the world, besides Kasparov. Tough, tough, tough. Magnus takes. Vishy takes back with the f-pawn. Bishop e4. He's trying to get in the game. He's trying to get his queen out. I mean, in essence, he was down almost a full queen, at least in the part of the board that mattered, for a long time. C takes. Rook to d2. I wouldn't want to be white here. It's much easier for black to play. Queen to b4, proper move. It attacks the rook, of course, and the pawn. Now what do you do? The only thing you can do, rook a to d1. Just out of curiosity, those of you wondering, if rook takes, queen takes, rook to f1, because you can see now the queen and the bishop are here, and rook to f8, and white's doomed. He's got to tie up all his pieces to defend f2, while this f-pawn creeps down the board. Bishop takes. If rook to f8 instead, king to h2, bishop takes, rook takes d3, which actually opens it up a little bit for white. You can see why Vishy didn't go that route. After bishop takes b2, what do? You play rook takes d3, or you try to get your queen out. You're technically down 2 pawns right now, but you're not really going to be down because you're going to get that d pawn back, but tough stuff, tough stuff. He goes queen f3. Bishop takes is not as good, because after bishop takes, bishop, rook to b1, queen to d4. If takes d2, rook takes, queen e4, bishop takes, queen takes d3. And of course, white wins. That's a weird scenario. You would think a rook, a bishop, and a pawn would be enough for a queen. But it's not. You've got 2 isolated pawns here. It's tough for black to hold this. In fact, white's up by over 3 points in that scenario. After queen f3, queen's out to play now. Bishop to f6. Vishy's feeling a little draft around his king. I think he's starting to feel the pressure a little bit now that queen is out. His king becomes much more vulnerable. If instead of bishop to f6, Vishy had gone bishop d4, which I think a lot of us would do, bishop takes. If queen had taken instead, which I think a lot of us would do as well, f check, f2 check, king takes, rook takes, bishop takes, queen to c5, king to g2, b4, and white is doomed. What a terrible scenario that would have been. After bishop to f6, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes. Now things are heating up a little bit. I think Vishy's worried about his king, and rightfully so. That white queen is out. If on the recapture bishop had taken instead of rook, queen to g4, queen takes, h takes, and I think that black's advantage of the passed b pawn is basically negated now. If you noticed, and I should have said something before, they're opposite color bishops. After rook to d3, this is where I think Vishy messed up. Right now he's about a pawn and a third ahead in score, almost a pawn and a half now as the computer runs. He probably should have played bishop to d4, blocking off the scope of the rook. Instead he played rook to d8, and now the computer goes down to 0.00. I think Vishy didn't want complications. I think he was afraid that Magnus has this thing where he can just pull something out of nothing, and he does all the time against the top players in the world, against the elite players. And I think Vishy had his chance. Magnus squirmed out of it. He played rook to d8. If he had played bishop d4 instead, queen to e2, rook to f8, now Magnus is in trouble. But they were both down in time. This is move 37, and they don't have much time left. After rook to d8, rook takes, bishop d3. The rest of this isn't really that impressive. Queen to d4, bishop takes, queen to f6. I think Vishy now realizes this game is drawn. Queen checks, bishop, king to g2, g5, h takes, queen takes, bishop c4, h4, queen c7, h, queen takes, bishop takes instead is worthless because of check, king, check, and he loses the bishop. After queen takes g3, e5, king f3, queen takes check, pawn takes. I think this is where, there's a few moves before this, prior to the queens being taken off. Vishy offered him a draw, and Magnus thought about it for a while, just moved. He didn't refuse it, he just moved, which is the same as refusal. Because the rules go, you make your move and then you request the draw. Bishop c5, king, bishop, king, bishop, king takes, king e4, and the game is drawn. I thought it was a hell of a game. I think Vishy had him. He was winning, but I'm not sure if it was enough to win. I think Magnus was on the razor's edge. The kid squirmed out of this one. To have to use all your powers and all your calculating ability and all your chess ability to draw with white is nothing to really be proud of. I think Magnus was disgusted. Not so much. I think it was his play. I think the nerves. It's tough. 22-year-old kid, not a lot of life experience. Vishy's a seasoned veteran. I think Vishy had him, but I'm not sure if he could have won this game. He didn't want to take the risk when he went rook to d8 And that was the end of that. Anyway, folks, this is game 3. I thought it was a hell of a game. Game 4 is tomorrow, which is November 13th, 2013. It'll be Wednesday. As I always say, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. And I hope to see all of you in the next video. And also want to mention I have another chess channel with my longer videos, longer than 15 minutes. This one I'm going to have to break up into 2 parts. But my other chess channel, instead of John Cordisco, punch in John Cordisco Chess. And that's my other channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.